My possible interpretation, my speculations, that this is all to be done by behavioral economists, possibly by future follow-up experiments. There may be some unconscious connection with the sense of being a victim and some sense of imperfect compensation that victims receive when they are victimized. The idea that judicial processes never provide full compensation. There is some element of the loss that is not compensated. Legal systems provide compensation with delay. Lawyers absorb part of the compensation. Judges fail to fully appreciate the frustration, pain, the suffering, the subjective loss involved in an accident, and therefore victims tend to avoid accidents more carefully than tortfeasors try to avoid liability. So this may be one possible explanation, even though financially they seem equivalent, even though we tell the players, the subjects, that is all there is about. There is some unconscious element that carries through. There is some baggage of information, there is some baggage of emotions that carries through in the experiment that we try to clean out. We don't use any words that refers to pain, we don't use any words that refers to injury, but nevertheless the individuals carry this second nature, this soft-wired reactions that motivates their action in the experiment. Well, this has a quite a pervasive range of applications, from safety standards to tort law, even criminal justice, and questions as to whether any such behavior is reflected even in institutional choices. Is this something that only applies to subjects taking precautions for themselves? Is this something that applies to subjects taking precautions on behalf of institutions? And for your own course of studies, is something that applies to international institutions, or even sovereign states. Are sovereign states more worried about being victims than being tortfeasors? Big questions. So we would like to see whether there are other motivations other than liability. For example, whether individuals will take precautions when there is no threat of liability. In a no liability regime, will prospective tortfeasors take precautions on behalf of victims? So if you're not liable and you're a prospective tortfeasor, you have an incentive to take precautions. And symmetrically, if you are a prospective victim and you are in a strict liability regime, knowing that you will be totally covered, will you take precautions? So are there incentives to take precautions that are not driven by a threat of liability, and possibly motivated by other social forces, so non-legal incentives, and there may be a way to calibrate and measure non-legal incentives that may work along legal incentives to explain human behavior.